The province of Lusaka is widely known for its compounds with human names. Let's examine how these compound names were started and spread. The number of squatter compounds settlements in Lusaka, the capital of Zambia, increased from 9 to 32 between 1967 and 1970, making up then 1/3 of the city's population. In 1973, squatters were made up of 1 in every 2 people. Beginning with the colonial era when Zambia became a dependent component of a capitalistic production system, squatting was a changing response to Zambia's economy. Here is a list of some of the compounds emanating from one compound owned by a farmer, John Lang. The name John Lang was given to the region in honor of the late farmer, Mr. Lang. It was popularized after his passing. Compounds were created in Lusaka as a result of the Lang's family lifestyle. Initially, John Lang, a farmer, possessed a sizable farm which spread throughout southern Lusaka. His wife and family also resided there. On several locations throughout the property, he had general workers. These farm areas are now referred to as compounds because of the names given to them by the employees. In the area, we would find places like Kuku. Some of John Lang's employees resided in what is now referred to as Kuku or Kwa Kuku, on the side where they were taking care of chickens. John Howard. Along came a young man, John Howard. John married Mr. Lang's daughter and he was given a piece of land to manage, and in this area it is now known by his name, John Howard. Kwa Miss or Mississippi and Chibolia. When Mr. Lang died, his wife moved out of the house to live in the new site. The area where the old house was is now known as Chibolia, meaning an abandoned place in Bemba. The new area where Mrs. Lang moved became known to be Kwamis or Mississippi compound as we know it today. Chawama. Before her death, Mrs. Lang decided to give her faithful workers some of the land. This area is now known as Chawama to acknowledge the good deeds they did. Kanyama. The name Kanyama came from the large ranch where a number of animals were housed and some slaughtering used to occur. The name Komboka was given by the late Mr. Alexander Kapokola, a Luzi man who served as the chairman of the migrants from Kanyama. He was responsible for naming the place after the 1976 floods in Kanyama that forced then President KK to relocate the people from Kanyama to a new location that is now known as Kuomboka from the Lozi traditional ceremony. Englishman George Hajipetro was Yolanda Hajipetro's husband. 84-year-old George passed away in 1995, while 93-year-old Yolanda did so in August 2010. From George came George Compound, or Kwa George. George Compound is situated in the west part of Matero. The settlement is estimated to have over 70,000 people. It was a gift to the local people by George. Garden Compound. Garden settlement started as a workers' compound. It consisted of 3 areas: Garden, Mutonio, and Mutengo. The areas were farmlands for Mrs. Emma Antonio, a Portuguese farmer, and Mrs. Jeffrey. The name Garden became prominent when the United Bus Company, UBZ, introduced a bus in this area and named the route as Garden. These settlements remain standing to date. People continue to squat in these areas of Lusaka despite the 4-year project from 1976 to 1980. This project was sponsored by the World Bank. Although they indeed grew in number and density after independence in 1964, these settlements were not a new phenomenon. Rather, they have been part of Lusaka's socio-economic map ever since the town began to grow.